Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Red Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Coltin Schachtner, and today we have two new faces with us. We have Jackson and Austin with Red Solutions. So if both of you could give a little background about how you're involved in Red Star and what you've done in the past. Jackson, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm Jackson Mullenhoff. I'm here with Red Solutions. I've been with Red Solutions for about 3 years now. I started with drones 3 years ago when we started with application, started spraying with DJI drones, and here we are today selling drones, generators, trailers, your complete drone solution.
Absolutely. And Austin Lueth here with Red Solutions. My biggest thing is kind of putting it all together. We have our parent company of Red Star has done a great job taking care of the customer, giving that customer support, being that company that will always, I guess, pick up the phone. I know it sounds easy, but sometimes that's what doesn't happen. And we're definitely that. We always want to pick up the phone and have that solution for that ag need.
Yeah, definitely. So, a couple years ago, the T20 by DJI, that was kind of the mainstay drone. Those are very small. Yep. And now we're running drones with, 18 and a half gallons tanks. So walk me through the progression and how we got to the drones we're using today, because it seems that is changing every year. It changes, and it's moving very quickly.
Yep, so I can start here. So like I said, 3 years ago, we started with the DJI T40. I would say that's when spray drones took to the next level. Before that, you had your T10s, T20s, and T30s. Those are nothing bigger than an 8-gallon drone. So when we went to the T40, that was when this whole spray drone thing really took off. So that year, it was T40s was the really main thing, and then your XAG P100s. The next year, there was a big shift. T50s came out, XAG P100 Pros, and those were the really two big manufacturers right now in the drone space. Fast forward to today, there is, I would say, 5 to 6 main manufacturers of drones. DJI, XAG, EA Vision, and now Vector are the 4 main drone manufacturers out there right now that customers are buying.
So what's the main drone we're using today?
Today, Red Solutions carries the new Vector HD 580. This is completely new to the U.S. market. It has a market leading or the same as everybody else, the 18.5 gallon tank, up to 43 mile an hour flight speed, 27-foot swaths for a great and excellent coverage. So this is the new on the market riser if you're a DJI user, and that was my main draw to this. This is going to be very, very similar, not the same. It's not a white label. This is their own manufacturer, but it has been very, very impressive in our early testings.
And would it be fair to say about the drone, is it more difficult, or do you think that Vector, the reason that you kind of chose them and found them was they've simplified a lot of things? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's been 3 years in the making for finding the right drone. We started here with the DJI T40s, couldn't follow terrain well, just not a very efficient drone for covering the acres that need to be covered for the setups that you're buying. So we started with the T40s, went a different direction with a completely new manufacturer, didn't like those because they had a 24-gallon drone, just didn't see the potential there, and the software was not where it needed to be. So now we moved into the new Vector HD 580 and have found the simplicity behind it. New pilots are just being able to walk up there, map your fields, and just go. It is a simple machine that is a very efficient machine for the new market.
That's phenomenal.
Perfect. So you brought up covering acres. So I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. One, out in here in Lee, where there's a lot of rolling hills, and 2, back in Iowa, where you go to college, where it is flat as a pancake and you can see your dog run away for 2 weeks. So what kind of acres an hour can we expect to fly with a drone? Let's say 2 people to help load and everything, because that's a big factor.
So I go off of a 2-drone setup, and I'm going to talk about single drone and then your 2 drones combined. So around here, it's pretty standard 2 drones. In our early testing, if you take an average of your best field versus your worst field, we're getting a straight average of about 50 acres an hour. Now, if you go out to where Coltin lives, where it's flat and easy ground, I think you can really push 60 acres an hour with 2 guys, 60 acres per hour per drone, and 120 with 2 drones an hour if you have the right supplemental equipment behind that. But that's where we're at. With the T40s, you're at a maximum of 30 acres an hour, and even with the 50s, 30 to maybe 35 acres an hour, and now we're pushing 120 with 2 drones. So we're almost doubling your efficiency with the new Vector HD 580.
So in a situation where let's just say all this farm's pretty close.
Yep.
Reasonably, you could cover 1,200 acres in a 12-hour day.
Probably not a 12-hour day. I think your setup and moving time, which I've found is the biggest thing about drone application. If your trailer is set up right and you can go to the field right away and be set up and mix your product within 10 minutes, that is what's going to make or break your day. Because with a lot of these trailers now, you have the fold-out wings, you have all these different things. I've found that the best way to cover a lot of acres is by just driving up to the field and being efficient. So I think around here, 800 to 1,000 on your perfect day is probably the max you're going to get. I don't care what drone you have. I would say that is around your max until we get into even a bigger drone.
Okay. So we brought up drone trailers. So my question to both you guys, what needs to be on that trailer to be efficient and be successful?
So what we found here, our new trailer, our RS trailer, we have a gooseneck and a 30-foot and a bumper hitch version. This will be our 5th iteration of our trailer, and I think after 5 different trailers that we've tried, I think that we finally found the thing that is going to be the most efficient for your operation. So we didn't go with the fancy wings. We just went with a straight 30-foot trailer with a flight deck and an area to stand, stairs going up the top left side, and then 2 500-gallon tanks with a batch tank. So that is going to allow you to batch for 100 acres at a time, and it's going to allow your drones to stay on top when you're moving fields. So all you have to do when you get to the field is mix your chemical and then take your drones, unlock them from the top, and take off and map your field. Don't have to fold out the wings, don't have to do any of this other fancy stuff. We just want to get to the field, take your drones off, and go.
And you talk about our efficiency of our trailers. Talk about the setup that Red Power has with our generator line.
Yep, and then along with our trailers, we have the Red Power. So we have anywhere from 12 to 50 kW generators. We've went the diesel route our entire drone years. For the 3 years, we've always had a big diesel. I don't like to listen to the little gas motors that are not,
Not as powerful.
Not as powerful. They're not as, they're not going to last you as long. Where a diesel is going to last you, 2, 3, 4,000 hours of work, and you can just get the more power out of it. I know you'll see a lot of guys, I don't want to have a generator that takes up that much room and that much weight. Well, if you have something, you don't have to buy 10 gas generators in the span of 3 years, because I've heard of guys that it's within 100 or 200 hours, they're just blowing up. So we have our really quiet, silent diesel generators that if you're right by them, you can actually barely hear them. So it's a great option of the drone, generator, and trailer.
And we have different solutions for different needs.
Yes.
If someone wants to start with that base package, let's say it is the gas.
Yep.
Maybe that's what their budget maybe tells them. Gas will work.
Yes.
However, to be the most efficient, we believe the diesel generators are the best way to go.
100%.
So when we're talking about drones, obviously we have the batteries in them. Those take a lot of power.
Yep.
So what's the life cycle of that battery?
Yep.
2, how much spraying am I going to get out of that battery? And how many do I have to keep flying?
So if we're going to talk about the Vector HD 580, so each charger pulls a maximum kW of 9 kW. So with the standard package, you get your drone and then your 1 charger and your 3 batteries. So what I would recommend for a 2-drone setup is 3 chargers. With the nice thing about the chargers, and that's what really drew me to Vector, is just how easy the charger is seamlessly, all combined. You don't have a cooling station and a charger. It's all combined in one, and at the click of a button, not having to go on the controller, not having to screw around with any of that. It's just right on the screen. You hit the minus button, you can go down in 500-watt intervals all the way down to 1,000 watts. So typically what we run for a 2-drone setup, you could get by with a 30 kW Red Power generator because, you can run at each charger about 7,000 watts when you're running the 2 drones for the Vectors. So you don't need the big 60 kWs. It's really nice to have for the extra juice if you ever wanted to push to 3 drones, but you could get by with a 30 kW.
And that's just that you see productivity maximized with efficiency.
Yes.
And that's the key of a trailer. Not having to run back and forth, staying on the same place, moving along with your territory or your ground, and figuring out how to do it the most efficient way and cost-effective way for the grower.
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
So when we start talking about drones, obviously there's a lot of regulation that comes with that. How do you guys help someone who's new, one, know how to fly that drone? Because, it's $50,000 plus up in the air.
Yep.
How do you help them get through that, get licensed, and be ready to go out there and apply?
Yep. So here at Red Solutions, we kind of do a walkthrough with you. We take you out and you fly your drone and we give you the tips behind how to not crash it. I remember our first drones, and the first time I sent my T40 out, it was on a 300-acre field. It went behind the hill. I didn't have it turned on, returned to home, went down my first ever commercial application flight. I'll never forget it, and I never want that to happen to one of my customers. So we're going to make sure that their settings are actually set up in the controller, because you can't just give the drone just right out of the box. There's other things that go along with it in your settings that really need to be adjusted for the customer. So we're going to go through all the settings with them, make sure they understand what each setting does, because the difference between turning on one setting or not could be the difference between whether your drone comes home if it loses connection or it lands in the field, and that's not a very fun day, and it could be pretty expensive if it does that. And then what we also do behind your regulation side is we work with a team of lawyers and myself to get you your 137 done, your drone registered, because you have to have your drone registered, and then you have to have your Part 137 done, and then get your 44807 exemption done as well. And we can help you with the testing to get your Part 107 and also your custom application license for your state, because you are applying pesticides and insecticides, so you do need to be a commercial applicator license with an aerial endorsement.
It really sounds like Red Solutions, being a new member of the team, I can really feel and understand that you're not just worried about yourself.
Yep.
You're taking that next step into the customer and making sure they're successful.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, if their success bleeds your success. And that's really that red solution.
Yeah, and I think that since we've been applying for 3 years, because we do have an application business, is that we've been able to learn over these past 3 years what works and actually what doesn't. We've actually applicate. We use the drones that we sell. We don't just sell drones that have never flown a drone. We know what's efficient because we've done it. We've had years that it hasn't worked. And I think the last 2 years, our biggest downfall has been our drones and not being trained properly, and also just the drone, just having not good drones that aren't efficient and that are crashing and that aren't reliable.
Perfect. So when we start talking about drones, the stuff we have to do for application is a little bit different.
Yep.
So in your experience, what things that Red Star provides could help anybody who is flying a drone?
Yep. So at Red Star here, our parent company, we have a full line of Red Star branded aerial products. And what we recently just came out with is a product called AeroGrip. It's a patented technology that we've done for 3 years of testing that really helps when the drone is out there flying, because there is no doubt about it that a drone is a lot better than a plane and even a helicopter. So what we've done is this AeroGrip is trying to make that even better. So AeroGrip it's a 1 ounce per acre rate. You dump it in your mix, and it's going to really help. It's a drift reduction agent. Drop your product onto your crop, because if you're still paying for a $12 acre application, so you want to make sure that you're getting that product down to the crop, and that's just one product here at Red Star that we have. We also have our own line of Elevate Plus, which is a foliar, and we have a bunch of other products like Red Shield that can really help your application process.
And as a customer, let's say a customer purchases a drone from Red Solutions, we're able to walk them into Red Star and create that connection on day one.
Yep.
Giving them that support and, once again, that opportunity to grow with us.
Yep.
So what is that process called there, Austin?
I believe it's called Red Step.
Yep.
There you go.
What did I win? No.
Yeah. So just give a little bit background on Red Step and how we plan to utilize that going forward.
Yep. So the Red Step is, when me and my dad started Red Solutions, we were thinking about the kids like my age. I'm 20 years old, and kids like my age with, corn prices right now, they're low corn prices. The farm can only feed so many kids. And like my dad compares a drone business to what the hog barn was back in his day. When the kid wanted to come home on the farm, but the acres and the cattle couldn't support, another mouth to feed, they went and built a hog barn, and that was their supplemental income to help get them back on the farm. Well, now it's drone application and buying a drone setup and doing that. So here, after we've done the application, we know it works, we know it doesn't. With the Red Step, you can buy your drone, your generator, your trailer, get all your licensing through us, but then you can have your team at Red Star help you sell the products along with that, because the drone is just a tool in your toolbox. Instead of just making your money on your application costs, you could become a Red Star dealer and sell products for Red Star right along with your application. So I have a lot of friends that do application, but they have to go to every farmer and get the chemical from them. That's just killing your time and your efficiency. When you're the Red Star dealer, you can make the money on your product, but you can also, it's just more efficient for you. You have the chemical at your shop, you're throwing it on your trailer, and you're just going out through the day. You're not having to go to separate farmers and get the chemical. So, and then with Red Star, we have a great line of salesmen and acres everywhere. So we can even find you acres. A lot of companies do say, well, we'll find you acres. Well, that really actually doesn't happen at Red Star. There's so many acres out there, and our salesmen can actually help you get a couple hundred or 1,000 acres to really help kickstart your business. So in the first year, instead of having to go find your 10, 12,000 acres, maybe we can help you get a couple thousand of that just to start, so your business, in year one is successful.
Yeah, the return on investment just with the innovation of a drone and bringing that home really pays dividends. Because one, you could take care of your own fields first, then your neighbor's fields, and then grow from there. If it's not needed to grow from there, focus on your own. And that expense by yourself is controllable as you join the Red Step.
Perfect. So talking about somebody coming back to the farm, starting a drone business, in order for that business to be profitable, we're just going to say they buy the trailer, one drone. What is a very reasonable amount of acres that they could accept that they know they can get done, so they don't piss everybody off because they're not getting done?
Yep. So if we're going to talk on a one drone setup, I think if you're going to run a 7 to 7 setup, so 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with one drone and then your other good equipment, I think you could expect anywhere from 300 to 500 acres per day with that drone, depending on field. So if you multiply that by 20 or 25 days, if you're just talking about fungicide, because the thing about a drone is there's more, and what I'm finding out is there are more than just fungicide acres. A couple weeks ago, we did a bentonite job, spread 10,000 pounds of bentonite in the pond. There's so many different uses for your drone. So if we just want to talk fungicide acres here, Colton, I think with a one drone setup, you could, commit to, 5 to 7,000, depending on, your terrain, I would say. So and then a two drone setup, I think 12,000 is a good, reasonable number that you can push through, just for fungicide. But if that's not counting any pasture, any alfalfa in early season, because if you can keep your drone busy from, really when you start spraying pastures all the way through the summer to end of fungicide, and then with how big cover crops and fertilizer through the drones is becoming, you can really keep your drone, if you really wanted to be busy, from March 15th to October 15th. And that's when you can truly make this a full-time deal. And it's not just a fungicide deal. If you want this to be your full-time gig, it 100% can be. There is more things out there than just spraying fungicide. And that's what a lot of guys are finding out. And that's what we're trying to find out as well, how much other markets out there are for the drones. So we can talk about, hey, you need 8,000 acres of fungicide. Well, no, there's other stuff that can help you make even more money.
That's phenomenal. I think with technology, so often people say, whoa, I'm scared of it. I think drones today are more accepted than I imagined 2 months ago. I see exactly how people have created new avenues for drones because of that acceptance. And then the next thing is they're being more and more creative, like the bentonite job. I talked to a guy in Great Bend, Kansas yesterday. He wants to spray insecticide on cattle. Okay? And I'm sure it's not insecticide, but it keeps the flies off. Makes total sense. Just think how many, how long that's going to take. That wasn't there a year ago, 2 years ago. Maybe it was. But those new ways are pretty interesting and neat.
Yeah, and I, in my opinion, I think truly every farm over a certain amount of acres is going to own a drone here in a few years. I just think that it's a way to bring the farm back to the farmer, as you always say. We can bring the farm back. We're not waiting on custom applicators. We're not waiting on planes. We're not waiting on helicopters. If you want to go out and spray your 2,000 acres, you can do that when you want. If you're somebody that wants the foliar applied when it's not above 80 degrees, as we talk about how you say the plant will shut down at 80 degrees. If you want to go fly at night and have your exemptions and go do that at night and just make sure your product is applied the right way, you can 100% do that with your own drone. And that's what I think drones are going to bring you back to, is bringing the farm back to the farmer. And then the other uses besides fungicide, and you can go spray a little bit of herbicide as well with the drones as long as you're careful. But it's a way to not have to rely on other people to spray your stuff. You can do it when you want and control your yield on your farm.
Mm-hmm. And talking with that herbicide, so this year, didn't you guys terminate some rye with it?
Yep. So with the Vector, and what the biggest thing that I found with the Vector is its spray pattern. I would put that spray pattern against any drone truly on the market today. There were 600 acres of rye that we killed, and the only parts that were bad in the field were the ends. And now there's a function on the Vector to do a sweep, but there was not a single skip in the middle of the field. It looked as if a ground rig ran over it.
That's phenomenal.
That was the most impressed I've ever been with a drone in the 3 years that I've flown. It was absolutely impressive.
And another application too, in the fall when everybody's winterized their sprayers, there's with that good coverage, throw in some breakdown and go spread that out there.
Well, exactly. There's so many avenues for these drones. It's not just fungicide to make them profitable.
At the end of the day, sorry,
you're good.
Cut you off. At the end of the day, I think it's about taking that control back. So often we lean and ask others to do it. However, now with a drone, gives you that ability to take that control back and do it on your time, your schedule, and your product. Also, your green. So it's phenomenal.
Perfect. Yep. So looking in your crystal ball, where are drones headed?
I think there's a sweet spot with drones. Everybody wants these huge drones, but for me, I think 18.5 to 25 is going to be a sweet spot. I think there is a market. There's going to be a market for your huge drones, but when we get to that point, you're not going to have a drone trailer anymore. You're not going to have they're going to be flying from your building, and they're going to do everything on their own. All you're going to have to do is it's going to be fully autonomous once we get to that point. But here in the next 2-3 years, I think that 18.5 to 20 to 30 gallons is going to be pretty normal, because you can cover a lot of acres with that gallon capacity. Because once they get too big, you can't move them around yourself. If they go down in the field, which drones do not fly themselves. If a salesman tells you it's not going to crash, they're 100% lying. I don't care what brand it is; it's going to happen. But I think in the next 3 years, 18 to 30 gallons is going to be your pretty standard size.
I think what you're really also going to see is the companies that will do best, and that's the people that sell drones, are going to be the ones with that customer service. They're going to be the ones focused not on them, but on the operator and making sure they're successful, whether it is a weekly seminar, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's a new best practice. Those things are so often overlooked, I guess you could say, that doesn't build that customer, lets them go succeed and hope they do. The best thing about Red Solution is we're there every step of the way. And if there's one more step or a solution that we haven't come across, we're going to use our resources with Red Star to grow that and figure it out. And that's why Red Solutions, I think, is a very viable company.
Yeah, and one thing, getting back to the 580, is one thing that we really have found, and what's really impressed me the most about the drone is the manufacturer support behind us. There is a couple weeks ago when we were first being trained on these drones, we had 6 guys from the Vector manufacturer here in the U.S. in our shop showing us how to run these things, how to fly them, the best way to fix them, and they're actually implementing what we want and what other guys are wanting out of the drones. There is no other manufacturers that are doing that. They're 100% listening and say, hey, we want this function added in the drone. Let's make it happen. And they're like 100%. When you get to talk to the head software engineer, the head of the person that's been head of the design of the HD580, the head of parts, when you can talk to the 3 very high up guys and get their input and tell them what you're wanting, that separates a drone company and a drone from everybody else.
Absolutely. A customer wants an answer now.
Yes.
And when we ask a question for our new drone, we get an answer right away.
Yes.
Sometimes it's at least a minute.
Yeah.
No 3 a.m. phone calls, no reason to get up early. It's then and now.
Yes.
And that's phenomenal. And how you found these guys is a rock. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think the Vector HD 580 and the Vector brand and company is going to be the next biggest thing on the market here.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Now all you need to do is get them in red instead of orange.
Maybe.
Perfect. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Red Effect Podcast. The Red Effect Podcast is brought to you by Red Star. Red Star, where our red makes you green.